Welcome to the community call, everyone. Super excited to get started today. My name is Preethika. I will be hosting the call today. Our agenda for the day is we will be having a Word Extensibility update from Wang, who's a principal product manager from the team. And we will also be having an Outlook add-in Blazor sample update demo from Legault, who is an external developer, which is going to be super exciting. If you have any questions, feel free to add them in the chat throughout the call, and we'll do our best to answer them throughout the call today. If we are unable to answer your questions today, we will post them in the blog post that'll come out about a week after this call. We also will be recording the call this morning, so it'll be posted on YouTube about 24 hours at the end of this call, so you can always look out for that as well. But yeah, other than that, let's go ahead and get started. So Yoon, if you want to take over.
Thanks. So for those who don't know me, my name is Wang, and I am the product manager for Word and PowerPoint Extensibility. Today, I bring you several topics. I have 4 topics for today. Let's start with the Embed add-in into Word document. In last community call, our colleague introduced a pattern to open file in Excel. After that community call, we got a lot of feedbacks asking for the similar capability for Word. So today I will introduce this to you. Let's recap for how a user goes to install and open up an add-in. So traditional way or common way is that the user goes to the office store, and try to find the add-in, do the installation, and after the install, the user switch to the ribbon button or click on some buttons and then launch the add-in. So you can see that there is long path for a user to actually start to install and use the add-in. However, another pattern here is that we have an existing technology to allow the user to open the add-in directly when the document is opened. So if you take a look at the open in Word pattern at the bottom, so the user click on a Word button from your own system, and then the file opens. And after that, the add-in will be automatically installed and launched in user's documentation. So this is the simple path. So this technology actually bring you the capability that open the document and then the add-in will be auto-launched. So from the video here, you could see that once the user open up a specific document, the task pane of a script lab has been opened and launched automatically. If the user doesn't install the add-in before, then actually the add-in will, the Word document will ask the user to install the add-in first, or trust the add-in first. And also you can share the link into your OneDrive, or you can upload the document into your OneDrive or any online spaces you have, and to share the link of the document to anyone else. And this capability is also enabled and available for the users. So once the user gets the shared link somewhere, and you also can open up the document from the Word Online, and this capability is also available over there. So there are a couple of use cases here. For example, I talked to several template vendors who provide the Word template to the users, and one of the problems they met was they want to keep connected after the user downloaded their document or their templates. So the current problem is that if the user shared the downloaded document or template to others, the other users will no longer know this document is downloaded from a specific website. So they want to change this so that they embedded this their add-in into the document, so that whenever the document is shared to anyone else, the user can, when a new user open up the document or template, the add-in will still be launched and the new user can be connected with their system through this pattern. We also got several partners that they need to keep the format or structure of the document so that they need the add-in to be opened in order to keep that structure and format. And this is also a good way to use. So this is the first one I want to talk about. Second one is the shared runtime support. So shared runtime support is available there for a while for Excel. And in July, we bring this capability to Word. And for shared runtime, you could share the variables or maintain connections to your systems or do anything that you can share between different components of your add-in. So from the video example here, you could see that we just simply do a counter at the right bottom there. So I keep open up and close the task pane of this sample add-in, and all the numbers will be added, which means that underneath there is the shared variable over there so that we can log for all the open up times of the task pane. There are also a couple of use cases here. For example, many of the partners, they want to run some code automatically when the document is opened. So this shared runtime is perfectly for that. And also there are a couple of other things you could do, and you can find the more details from the link below. And another thing is the structured document survey result. Last time, David shared a word survey for the structured documentation. So this is just the FYI information. So we have several customer feedback over there, and here are some of the important results that I would like to share with you. So these results will also guide us for the future development direction and also the prioritization as well. So we focused on the content control and field. So the first question we asked is whether you have ever used the content control fields. We have many customers that are leveraging these two technologies. And for content control, we are asking, what type of the content controls are the users using? So rich text, no doubt, is the number one, and plain text number two, and checkbox also number two. I didn't put other votes here. I just selected the top ones that I think are important, because from our priority, maybe these are something we will consider first for the future development. And also for fields, the add-in type of the fields and the hyperlink are the most voted fields over there. And also we have date. For content control events, many partners are waiting for the existing APIs to be graduated from preview, and we are working on that. And there are also a couple of others listed there, but these 5 content control events are the top ones. So the survey is still open. You can still access to this survey and provide your feedback if you want to share your background and how you use these with us. And last one is a update for information sharing. So we had created a Word panel in Microsoft User Research. Thanks, David, for that. But it is over there for several months, and we really have a couple of partners there. The benefit that you register in this panel is that we periodically share information through that channel. So we decide to share more latest updates of Word API through the channel, and we also will do some dynamic scheduling of meetings and interviews with partners, and also the case studies through that channel. So I recommend you to register into that panel so that we can have more strong relationships through that. That's all for my sharing. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Yoon. All right. Eric, do you want to take over and continue presenting?
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. It's good to be back. My name is Eric Legault. I've been building Outlook and Office add-ins for 20 years. I used to be an MVP for Outlook and Office apps and services from 2003 to 2018. And MVP Martin Van Stam and I have co-authored this Blazor Outlook add-in sample that we are going to showcase for you today. Gonna load up my deck here. So Blazor, basically, we can run C# in our web add-ins now, which is phenomenal, right? Typically, if you're writing C# in a web project, it's in a web API, but now we can run C# in web add-ins. That's a big win. I mean, that's very exciting, right? I know Blazor's been around for a couple of years, but I'm not sure if many of you have thought of using Blazor as a solution for your Office add-ins, but it is possible, and we're going to show you how to do that today. So Blazor is basically just a WebAssembly that allows you to build a .NET Core compliant website that interacts with the Office.js APIs. So you can use your reusable Razor components to build cross-platform solutions, and this runs in most modern browsers. So if you're thinking of migrating some VSTO or Visto solutions, this is your opportunity to reuse a lot of that business logic that you may have in your C# code, and continue to use JavaScript as well. There's some interop capabilities between the two that allow you to build some pretty amazing solutions going forward. So as I stated, Blazor is a web framework. It's for building Razor components. It can be hosted in a bunch of different ways. There are many kinds of Blazor solutions. Well, 3 different kinds of hosting models. One is the one that we're going to be looking at today is using the Blazor WebAssembly, or WASM, client-focused type of solution. You can also build Blazor server apps where all the UI rendering is done on the server and there's no client component, and you can do hybrid solutions as well, which allow you to do all kinds of fancy things for hosting on native mobile and desktop apps, kind of thing that render to an embedded web view control. But regardless of the hosting model, the way that you build Razor components is the same. So if you're familiar with building websites in ASP.NET Core with Razor files and all that, you can still continue to do that. You can even mix in other JavaScript UI frameworks like Bootstrap. And so you got a lot of choices for building a full stack web development experience with .NET. You also have the ability to share code between the client and server apps. So lots of possibilities here. And if you're interested in comparing some of the hosting models, there are some guidance available in Microsoft Docs that you may have some very unique scenarios that you want to consider. So take a look at to see which one is more appropriate for you. Going forward, if there's some things that you expect to do in Blazor, you can't do the typical things that interact directly with the desktop, like the file system or sockets or multi-threading. Everything in Blazor is single-threaded. If you have any highly secure applications that are using .NET for system.security.cryptography implementations, that's not supported in Blazor for now. You will want to look at using the subtle crypto APIs for those scenarios. And if you are integrating Azure solutions like Key Vault, you can't use client secrets at the moment in the client projects, but you can continue to do that in like your web API server solution. So getting started, if you want to build an add-in, feel free to get a developer sandbox that you can get a renewable 90-day E5 developer subscription. And make sure to go to the Office Add-in Samples repository that has this code sample ready for you to run, and keep your eye on the README in that repo for breaking changes and guidance that we may add to it after the fact. One of the things that you may come across if you run that sample right away from GitHub is if you hit F5, make sure that you set up your email address for the tenant that you're testing with in the solution, and maybe you might have to, if you're using Office Developer Sandbox tenant, you may have to enable multi-factor auth, and I'll show you where that setting is in the solution. And you may have issues sideloading the project. I was having those issues as well, so I'll show you a quick way of getting started without sideloading and just manually installing the add-in. All right, so let's get started on the sample here. All right, so let's get taking a look at the project tooling here. We based this off of we stole 2 project templates from Visual Studio. One, we started with the Blazor client template in Visual Studio, and we also used an Office web add-in template to get the sideloader project. This is over here. So we'll provide some guidance on how to correctly, I'm trying to get my zoom in going here. I can't recall off the top of my head how we migrated this sideloader project from an Office web add-in template, but I think it's more of associating the web project with this imported sideloader project. And Martin's got some interesting techniques that he wants to perfect when he comes back from vacation. He's going to be working on that. We've also had a discussion with some of the ASP.NET team on tooling updates that may be coming in the future to get an actual bona fide Office Web Add-ins Blazor template in Visual Studio. So hopefully that we'll get that at some point. All right. So I mentioned how you set up your tenant. You want to add your email address here, and you may need to set multi-factor auth to true. But if you're having problems sideloading it, then what you want to do is go into the solution configuration and set the Outlook Blazor sideloader project to not start. So you will just be starting the web server. You go to your My Add-ins page in Outlook, load the manifest file from the build folder. It's not the actual build folder, but there's a subfolder that has a auto-generated manifest. That's not the same as this XML manifest file because it has placeholders for the remote app URL that are changed at compile time with the address of your local web server. So that you'll have to do to get that going. So let's take a look at the tooling in this project. It's, if you're familiar with ASP.NET Core projects, you'll see the familiar www root, the model, pages, and shared folders that are typical of a lot of ASP.NET Core projects. In our case, we have our main logic is in the index razor pages, and we also have the index HTML page. I can't draw a circle for the life of me, can I? And this Blazor add-in.lib.module.js file, which is pretty important, as you'll see soon. But let's take a look at the first thing you want to do if you're setting up a Blazor project is take a look at the index HTML page. It has the main root component specified in this div as the app for the value of the ID, and this will make sure to load the Blazor runtime and other situations. And you don't get over focused on this particular reference here. It's looking for a blazor.webassembly.js file that does not actually exist in your project. Okay, it's going to know how to find this file just by the name of it, because it's going to match the project namespace name. So you're going to have to make sure that this file is named just like your project so that this other named file can find it. It's a little confusing at first, but don't worry about it. So the other main file is that Blazor add-in.lib.module.js file that I just mentioned, and this is where you can customize the loading process and the before start function. You can also define like the login level and other hosting model options. This is where the .NET runtime gets downloaded along with the app and all the other apps dependencies, and it's where the runtime is initialized so you can run the app. After that fires, you'll have your code in the index.razor.c# file. And this is where in the on after render async, we can load other JavaScript modules, right? So in this case, we have an index.razor.js file that's co-located alongside the C# file with our Razor page, right? And once that external module fires, then it goes back to the Blazor module, and then the after started function fires. And that's where you can initialize libraries, and the entire Blazor instance is added as an argument if you need to do some pretty fancy things. So in this case, for this demo, we're simply going to be listing all the attachments in a current email message and just displaying some of that data in a task pane. And we have code in that JS file that's going to be going through all of the attachments in the email and getting the data, calling some asynchronous methods down here. That's going to call the get attachment content async method and bring all that together so that it's rendered in our actual Razor page where we have some components set up here to grab data from this mail read data object that we're setting in the C# class by calling this await get email data function that's going down here, calling a JavaScript function in that JS file to get the data from it. And once that object is populated with data, then the Razor component can render it. So let's hit F5 and hope the magic happens. It's going to be loading an instance of a browser, but this is not where we want to showcase everything because it's going to fail, and I'll just blow through these breakpoints because it's not hosting the Office runtime, obviously. So you're going to get an unhandled error on the bottom. But if we go to Outlook, find an email with attachments, load our add-in, maybe I'll have to go to the Outlook client because that button is not appearing, is it? It seemed to have moved. For some reason, I saw it up here at one point. Let me double check to make sure that the add-in is still here. It's not. Where did it go? Oh, brother. Okay, well, let's load the add-in. Thankfully, we were right. This is the folder I was mentioning earlier. It's a subfolder of the project. It's in the bin debug office app manifest, and this is where the compiled version of the manifest will run. Okay, good. It's loaded. It was there yesterday. Whoop. All right, go back to our email. Button, yes. Blazor Outlook sample. So this is going to launch the task pane. Now some of these breakpoints are going to get fired. Oh, an unhandled error has occurred. Fantastic. I wonder what happened here. Of course, the demo gods have deigned to tell me something is going on, and can I figure it out fast? Maybe let's just restart it. I don't want to close Visual Studio. Let's try this one more time. If not, I'll just give up because the demo gods have clearly been angered. And let's start this again. Cross our fingers. This was running yesterday, of course. At least you saw the UI load. Okay, yeah. At least things are working. Let's try this again. Come on. Magic button, load the add-in without errors. Oh, there it is. Fantastic. There we go. We got some of the base 64 attachment data output to the task pane, so you know that all those functions that I showed you as I walked through everything actually worked. In closing, let me see if I got back to my deck here. If you want to have some guidance on exploring Blazor, there are a bunch of links in this deck. Feel free to spend a lot of time understanding the intricacies of Blazor and JavaScript interop, because there's a couple of magnificent pages in the link down here in the ASP.NET Core Blazor JavaScript interoperability. There's a couple of documents on how to call JS from .NET and how to call .NET from JS. They are very long reads. You may get tripped up, but have at it. Take a look at how we're doing things in the sample and take it from there. Other than that, if you have any questions, feel free to ping me on social media. Hit up Martin Van Stam as well, and keep your eye on that sample repo, and especially in the README, we'll provide additional guidance based on the questions and the feedback that you give us. So hopefully that got your ideas and light bulbs going to build web add-ins using Blazor. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.
Thank you, Eric. That was awesome. 1 second, I'm going to share my screen again. All right, so we quickly want to have a community spotlight for Thomas Barnekow. So thank you for all your contributions to Office add-ins samples department. We also have a few Q&A questions here today that we got previously in the forms. So I'll go through the answers for that before we get wrapped up. One of the questions that came in was that for an Outlook add-in specifically, they needed MIME representation of an email message, and they were wondering if it was possible to add support for these office to office.js. And we currently do support these properties, so the docs provided on this page are the ones that you could use to move forward with this functionality. So feel free to go take a look at that. And if you have any more questions, let us know. And our second question prior to this call was, so consideration for existing add-ins that use the Outlook REST API is super helpful. Eventually, will all add-ins, existing and new, be able to use the Outlook REST API until the Office 2019 support? So yes, they will. And we've already added this functionalities to our documentation as well in this page specifically. So feel free to consult this link as well and let us know if you desire further functionality or if there's anything else you think we could add. Yes, so that will be all for our community call today. Once again, the YouTube recording will be posted 24 hours after this call, and we will also have a blog post about a week from now that will have all the questions and answers that were addressed during this call and the ones from the forums that you can also consult. Thank you, everybody. I will end the call now.